to all joining us from different parts of the globe or from different time zones. Welcome po to Isip, Isak, Conversations on Faith and Society. Kami po ay masayang kasama kayo kung iyon man ay umaga, tanghali o gabi. Hello po sa inyo at samahan niyo kami sa isa na namang masaya at exciting na kwentuhan, conversation about a very, very interesting topic for today. Ngayon po ay kasama niyo ako. Ako po si Attorney Richelle and I will be facilitating our conversations for tonight or for today for some of you na nakikinig sa amin kahit sa replay. We'd like to encourage you to share this broadcast to your friends. So ngayon ay live na live po tayo dito for the first time. Lahat po ng ating mga guests ay live na kasama natin dito sa Isip. And we are very happy to have you with us. So please feel free to share our broadcast at sabihan niyo po kami kung saan kayo nakikinig or nanunood. Tell us where you're joining from so that we can give you a shout out. So, tingnan natin kung ilan na yung kasama natin ngayon gabi. Ayan. So, dumadami na tayo ngayon. And mamaya, we will be happy to acknowledge you. So, wag po kayong mahihiyang mag-comment, sumama sa diskusyon natin ngayon sa Isip Isak. And as we continue our celebration of Women's Month, like I said, we will continue our celebration and discussion about women in our society. So we will have amazing guests who will share their stories on their leadership journey in the different fields where they are. So samahan niyo po kami at handa na ba kayong makilala kung sino ang ating mga guests ngayon na magbabahagi ng kanilang mga storya? So tingnan natin Yan, sige, please feel free to join us and share with your friends para mas marami pa pong makasama dito sa ating kwentuhan ngayon. So, ngayong oras po na to, hindi na ako magpapatumpik-tumpik pa. Ipapakilala ko po sa inyo ang ating mga kasama ngayong araw na ito sa ating Isip Isak, Conversations on Faith and Society. Unang-una po dyan, let us welcome the directress and founder of the Learning Tree. She has a bachelor's degree in family life and child development, and she also has a Master of Arts in Education in the University of the Philippines. Salamahan po niyo ako na salubungin at palakpakan po natin, i-welcome po natin si Professor Ana Francisca Castañeda Lacanilao, or more famously known as Teacher Francie. Teacher Francie, please feel free to say hello to our listeners and viewers for today.
Good day to everyone. I'm glad to be with you for this nice Isip Isak thing that we're going to do tonight.
Yan. So we're happy to have you here, Teacher Francie.
My honor. Yeah.
Your students might be watching. You can say
they...
hello to them and give them a shout out.
Hello, children at the Learning Tree, also my teachers and friends at the Green Hills Christian Fellowship as well.
Ayan.
Hello to all.
Ayan. Thank you for being with us today, Teacher Francie. I-welcome din po natin ang isa pa sa mga kababaihan talaga na napakaraming impluwensya at nagawa sa kanyang hindi lang kapwa kababaihan pero sa iba't ibang komunidad. I-welcome po natin ang Livelihood Coordinator of the Bukang Liwayway or BL, Dawn for the Poor Foundation, and she's also a leader in her Dawn Harvest Church or isa sa mga sambahay or what you call small groups, and later on she will tell us more about it. I-welcome po natin, kasama natin ngayon si Miss Thelma Dongganon Cantilleps. Say hello to our viewers, Miss Thelma.
Hello everyone, and thank you Isaac for inviting me here to tell my story. Yun lang po.
Ayan. I'm sure marami pong excited na marinig ang storya niyo mamaya, Miss Thelma. And hindi lang po si Teacher Francie and si Miss Thelma ang kasama natin ngayong gabi. Makakasama din natin ang isa sa mas bata pa sa akin, no? Hindi ko sigurado kung millennial or Gen Z pa ito, pero I'm so happy to have with us a dance artist and educator, a faculty at IDMM Ballet School, and a member of Daloy Dance Company. Let us all welcome, ito binibini. Let's all welcome Miss Julienne De Patilio.
Hi, good evening po everyone. Looking forward to listening to my fellow women later. So I hope makinig po tayong lahat sa mga kwento namin. Thank you.
Ayan. Once again, welcome Julienne, Miss Telma, and Teacher Francie. Women in leadership, kitang-kita nyo naman po. But of course, we welcome men and everybody in our conversation. We hope that in our conversation tonight, you will be inspired, and of course, women who are watching will be empowered, whichever field you are or wherever field you are right now, with our guest speakers for this Isip Isak. We hope that you will feel the passion and the empowering of really being women in your field, women in leadership. For we know that everyone has influence kung saan man tayo nandun ngayon. So simulan na po natin na ating kwentuhan. Marami tayong pagkikwentuhan ngayon, no? Teacher Francie,
Yes.
Miss Telma, and Julienne.
Yes.
So tell us, what is your current profession, career, ministry that you are in right now? And since we're talking about being women, no, in that place, what challenges have you experienced or encountered so far? So let's start with Teacher Francie.
Okay, ako ay isang guro. I've been a teacher for 53 years now. And I run a small school, small Christian school. We use the experiential integrative approach, which is the approach I've done in these past years, na nagtuturo ng mga bata mula preschool hanggang grade 10, junior high. Yan ang aking ministry ngayon. And I also do a lot of training. Being a teacher, I love it. I'm a woman teacher.
Wow.
And I'm married to Pastor Mike Lacanila.
Wow, of course, that should not be forgotten. Okay, thank you for sharing with us kung ano po ang inyong ginagalawan ngayon.
Yun. Pero kung meron mga challenges, wala namang humahad lang sa akin bilang isang guro. I think it's a lot of people look, if you're a teacher, babae ka. Ako magcha-challenge sa mga lalaki. I wish there were more men teachers, especially sa early childhood education, para merong tinatawag na father figure din. Kailangan niya, no? Pero in my field as a teacher, you know, the women are everywhere. We're in politics, in education, we're in fashion, we're also in engineering, we're in like a lawyer, you know. Wala naman yatang hindi nagagawa ng lalaki na hindi din nagagawa ng babae in terms of mga oportunidad na ganyan sa mga karera o mga profesyon. So, wala man akong mga challenge doon.
But what you gave to our listeners and viewers is a challenge for men to rise up to the occasion in terms of education.
Especially
Wow.
for teachers for young children.
Right.
They need father figures inside the classroom as well. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing to us that challenge, Teacher Francie, at the start of our conversation. But how about you, Miss Telma? Ano po ang inyong profession o ministry na ginagampanan ngayon?
Sa ngayon ako ay livelihood coordinator ng Bukang Liwayway, Dawn for the Poor Foundation, and isa sa elders and sambahay leaders in Dawn Harvest Church Philippines. Yung sambahay leaders is para siyang house churches, parang ganyan. At nagkakaroon kami ng sambahay per kung saan yung ginaganap yung Bible study sa bawat bahay ng mga kananayan. And nagkakaroon din kami ng mga women's fellowship every Saturday na a month lang, parang ganyan. And yung mga challenges siguro sa sambahay or sa house church yung halimbawa, meron kang kagrupo na wala silang makakain, parang ganyan. Wala, so ikaw bilang leader, burden mo yon. Halimbawa, merong may sakit, parang ganyan. And walang pambili ng gamot. And isa sa challenges na minsan wala ka rin na maibibigay. So, challenges yun na ikaw mismo sa sarili mo, hindi ka makakapagbigay ng tulong doon sa group na yon, parang ganyan. And isa pa sa mga challenges, syempre yung burden na sinasabi sa akin as a leader. At syempre, dahil leader ako, meron din akong sariling burden. No? Hindi naman pwedeng sabihin ko na wala silang makain or wala silang pambiling gamot, sabihin ko lang na ipapanalangin ko sila. Parang ganon. Isa yan sa challenges na, maraming challenges na nangyayari sa bawat sambahay. Parang ganon.
Before I go to Julian to share with us kung ano yung kanyang profession or ministry ngayon, let me just make a follow-up to Teacher Francie and also to Miss Telma. Sa inyo po bang field ngayon in education and as a house church leader, karamihan po ba ng mga kasama nyo ay kababaihan din? Kanina po, si Teacher Francie already said that there's a challenge, no, for men to rise to the occasion. So, if you would give us a picture of how many women are joining you in that field, would you say all or
Well,
majority?
sa mga teachers ko, karamihan talaga mga women. Pero meron din akong mga teacher na lalaki. Okay, mga sa art, sa PE, ganyan, sa film, ganon. So, ano naman, pero karamihan talaga, teacher, babae.
Okay. How about si Miss Telma?
Sa amin po, sa Bukang Liwayway, mas madami kaming girl. Tapos sa mga sambahay leaders, mostly ang inahawakan ko is mga nanay. So, lahat halos is babae.
Okay, alright. And now let's go to Julian. Can you tell us naman what your ministry or profession is right now, Julian?
Okay. Ako rin po ay isang guro, pero 8 years pa lang po ako nagtuturo, di kagaya ni Teacher Francie. I teach ballet, contemporary, and improvisation to students ranging iba-iba from kids, teens, meron din po young adults, and even older people as well. I've had the chance to teach. And, ayun, mainly teacher, pero ano din po, still a dancer and aspiring choreographer as well. That's why I'm working with Daloy Dance Company din po. To help hone my craft and my skills as a performer. Then, so yun yung main thing na ginagawa ko.
So, similar question to Teacher Francie and Miss Telma. In your field, can you tell us if you are also joined by mostly women or also men in the field of arts or dance and ballet?
Actually, parang may hati siya. Sa ballet school, sa dance school, mostly women pa rin. Pati students, very onti ang male dancers, which is very unfortunate. I'm also asking again men to stand up to the occasion. Kasi may conception talaga na ballet is a girly thing, which is unfortunate. But yun. Tapos on the professional side naman, medyo pantay, men and women. And marami ding women leaders and choreographers that I've worked with. So, medyo pantay siya on that end. Yeah.
Wow, okay. So we can see that in the field of arts or dance, in the field of churches also, or a church, correct? House churches. And also in the field of education or in school, dito po sa mga kasama natin, karamihan ay mga kasama nila, sila na mga leaders dito, kasama nila yung mga babae. And it's a fresh challenge, if I might comment, na makarinig, no, na this time, marami namang mga kalalakihan ang sumama sa mga kababaihan dun sa kanilang mga fields. So, anong masasabi niyo dyan? Sa mga kausap natin ngayon sa Isip Isak, what can you say about that challenge from our guests today? Mamaya, titingnan po natin yan. But in terms of your fields, like what you shared kanina, how do you empower your fellow women? Kayo po, masasabi natin, you are occupying leadership roles. You're a founder and directress, you are a church sambahay leader, you're also leading, you are an educator, Julian, and also leading perhaps in your profession. So how do you empower fellow women to also rise to position of leadership or position of influence, let's say? Let's start with Miss Telma. Kayo po.
Sa akin. Sa BL, parang regular na kasi na meron kaming mga training na ina-attendan. And isa sa mga value namin is to apply kung ano yung natutunan namin sa mga training. And yun yung tinuturo namin, like sa sinasabi ko nga na house churches ko, disciple ko, ituturo namin yun kung ano yung natutunan. And then sila, ituturo din nila yun sa kung anong grupo nila o house churches. And then, doon na nagsisimula yung discipleship. And doon na rin nag-start na magkaroon ng multiplication, kaya dumadami yung sambahay namin. At isa sa yung na-empower natin sila na maging leader din, hindi lang nag-stop yung leadership sa akin, kundi sila then dinidisciple ko, nag-i-start din silang mag-lead ng iba pang gawain, parang gano'n. Ganon din yung sa ginagawa namin, even sa mga youth. Bata pa lang sila na i-empower na sila na magturo din sa mas bata, diba, sa kanila. Kaya doon nag-i-start na matutunan nila yung pagdi-disciple. Una is leadership, discipleship, and multiplication ng house churches namin.
To give us perhaps a better picture para sa mga probably first time lang itong naririnig. When you say discipleship, Miss Telma, what usually happens there? Ang ganda nung naririnig po natin, no, Teacher Francie Julian, na parang women empowering women, and even younger women at that. How does it look like po, Miss Telma?
Yung house churches,
or yung mga trainings that you mentioned earlier.
Yung house churches, halimbawa kung ano yung natutunan namin for a leadership, and then ituturo namin yun. Halimbawa tayo yung house churches. Parang model ko yung ginagawa, like devotion, prayer time, praying, encouragement sa mga kasama. Then, dahil yun yung nakakagawian natin gawin. Si Miss naman is ganun din yung gagawin niya sa group niya.
Okay.
So, natututunan niya na kung anong ginagawa namin, ay yun din yung gagawin niya doon sa grupo niya. Ganon.
Okay. Like you are nurturing another person, another woman, so that she too could also nurture another one. Ang ganda, no? Ang ganda nun. Unlike what we sometimes hear, di ba? Hindi naman tayo naive sometimes to the fact that there are, women, instead of helping each other, bashing each other, criticizing each other, but here we're talking about or listening to stories where women are empowering others. In Miss Telma's case, tama po, mga nanay, mga nanay yung kasama nyo.
Dito sa sambahay na to, na nagiging yung relation ng bawat isa. Kasi nasasabi mo sa kagrupo mo kung ano yung mga problema ninyo. And then nakakapagbigay ka ng advice sa kanila, parang gano'n. And nagiging kanila, as a leader, nagiging kanila safe place na ikaw yung pagsasabihan nila ng mga burden nila, parang gano'n.
Wow, that's very wonderful. How about Julian? Ikaw naman, how do you empower fellow women artists or dancers in your field?
I guess in my own small way. Kasi most of my students are women, like girls. So I feel like in my classes, I do really try to encourage them not to be ashamed of their bodies.
Wow.
And not to be ashamed of how they move. Kasi yun yung, kaya love na love ko ang improvisation.
Wow.
Kasi walang tama o mali na movement. So I can really have them discover what kinds of movement that they like, how they move, how they do certain things, and I really try to emphasize for them to be okay with however they move. Kasi feel ko problema talaga siya ng mga artists, yung body dysmorphia, yung always feeling like something's wrong with you, something's wrong with your body. Lalo sa feel ko hindi lang naman siya sa mga babae, pero mostly sa babae kasi you're expected to look a certain way, you're expected to be a certain way. You're conditioned to be like this, kailangan sexy or payat or whatever, ganon, laging ganon. So, problem talaga ng artists, ng dancers, yun. Ako, personally, matagal ko siyang naging issue talaga. Hanggang ngayon, meron pa rin. Pero in my own ways, I guess I'm trying to empower my women students to take up space, to not be ashamed of what they have, and to, to share that with people, to not be ashamed to share.
Ano yung edad ng mga estudyante mo, Julian?
Ngayon, currently, mga may 13, may 14, tapos meron din mga 20s, early 20s. So, mostly teens and young adults po.
Yeah.
So, talagang dun sa stage na talagang body conscious.
Correct.
Ganon. So, yeah, I'm hoping my classes help in some way.
Yes.
with that.
And like what we're saying, you have a very influential role in the lives of this young women, yung mga teens na ito. Could you tell us, of course, without disclosing naman details or names, any particular scenario perhaps relating to how you are trying to empower another person, if you have or you recall a particular story that maybe our listeners or some of our viewers could also relate to? Ano yung sinasabi mo at ano yung sitwasyon na kinakailangan niya in your field of dance or arts ng kailangan to ma-empower, kailangan maalis sa akin yung mga gantong, negative mindsets?
I don't think I can name a specific case, pero I'll just siguro share a practice that I do in my classes, na meron kaming check-in circle at saka check-out circle, na I give time para makapag-discuss kung kamusta sila, kamusta yung iniisip nila tungkol sa ginagawa namin sa class, ganyan. So, merong chance to process how they are perceiving their bodies.
Wow.
And to process how they perceive themselves as movers and dancers. So, I think nag-work talaga yun pag in conversation.
Right.
Maganda siyang gawin in conversation na hindi lang puro sa'yo, sarili mo. Kasi hindi ko alam kung common siya. Hard tayo sa sarili natin usually ganyan. So, when you get to speak about it, parang we get to know na hindi tayo nag-isa dun sa struggle. And that we can process things together in a way. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, yes. It does make sense. And I think si Miss Telma, bukang gusto niyang i-adopt yung ganun practice. So, para sa mga nanay, di ba? I'm sure they're also doing that. There's a different form na nagagawa din nila yun. But thank you for sharing, because others might want to also, learn how we can empower others. If we feel like we're empowered enough or we are already in a position, let's say that you are leading someone or being able to influence someone, not just in terms of your body, but in the roles that you take, I think tonight or today, we're trying to inspire one another na we have to do this even more. Diba? Now, let's turn to Teacher Francie. Education is a very important institution or platform. Julian is your student, right? Diba? So, yan produkto po ito ng role na ginampanan at patuloy yung ginagampanan. So, how do you empower, let's say, I have to specify, in terms of students and teachers?
Well, I would think that, and I do believe that all my teachers are leaders in their own right. They're all leaders because they lead the children. They empower the children to be themselves, their best selves. I always tell the children, you and my teachers do this as well, na kailangan, tuturuan natin ang mga bata habang bata pa sila, marunong sila mag-isip. Hindi isang paraan lang ang pag-iisip. You can think of many different ways to do things. You become more creative. You become more like they say, you can't skin a cat just one way, no? So, kailangan i-explore ng mga bata kung paano sila magagamit nila yung mga giftings na binigay ng Diyos sa kanila. At dapat nilang isipin lagi yung thinking ko, yung acting ko, tsaka yung feeling ko, dapat may integration yun. Ha? So, tinuturuan ko yung mga teachers na they help them. That's why inaalaw nila yung mga bata na mag-isip para sa sarili nila, gumawa ng mga bagong kaisipan na hindi mo pagtatawanan dahil wala sa libro yon. Think out of the box. Sige, ano pa maisip mo tungkol dyan, ganyan. Tapos, kung meron kang gagawin, I always tell my teachers, do not take from the children something that you know is mediocre. Try to always tell children, whatever you do it with excellence. Yan. Kailangan ng bansa natin yan. Yung kailangan, hindi yung pwede na, bawal yun. Kailangan, kung hindi alam ko, mas kaya mo pang isulat ng mas maayos yan, sige, ibabalik ko sa iyo. Para pag binalik mo sa akin yan, alam ko na, binuhos mo yung sarili mo dyan, para may excellence yan. And you become creative, you become expansive in your thinking. And then also, huwag kakalimutan na bigay ni God yung mga giftings na yan. Papasalamat tayo, whatever it is, if it's in the arts, it's in dance, it's in writing, it's in your body, strength, etc. Or whatever it is, we always have to have Christ-centered precepts in what we do. And do not forget your love of God, country, and yourself. Yan, kailangan, yan mga alam ni Julian yan, yan ang mga parang emphasis na kailangan na ibinibigay ng mga guro sa kanilang mga children. Para tatayo tayo ng isang bansa na alam natin yung ginagawa natin, gagawin natin ng mabuti para sa kalwalhatian ng Diyos. Kasi para sa akin, ganun yun eh. You have to teach them what is right, you have to teach them the things that are lasting, the things that are timeless. Saan natin nakukuha yun? Sa salita ng Diyos. Pero, hindi yung basta sasabihin mo, tapos tatanggapin lang, mag-ask kayo ng question, nag-ask sila ng mga question. And that's always true, no? Always ask questions if you don't understand. No? That's how you empower children. But my teachers are empowered that way as well. Yan. Para sa kabutihan ng not only para pumasa ka sa exam sa Ateneo, pero para habang buhay, always look at it like that. When I teach the children, hindi yung para sa ngayon lang, what will they be 25 years from now? Yan, So, karga-karga mo itong mga values na ito, na ibinahagi ng teacher mo na isang leader, kasi ang influensya niya, malawak. So, lahat ng teachers, ganyan, gusto kong maano ang challenge ng mga lahat ng guro, ganyan. Yan, para sa ating bansa.
Kanina, Teacher Francie, nagbigay kayo ng challenge, no? Kayo yung unang-unang nagbigay ng challenge at sinundan kayo ng inyong estudyante na si Julian for men to be educators. Join us in the field of dance or arts. If I may ask you,
Yes, ma'am.
Teacher Francie, you said earlier na mas maraming kababaihan na educators. And yet, you also were telling us na this is how your teachers are empowered and also empower children. In your experience, can we say that women are able to do that more than men? Or why is it in your case there are more women teachers? So, bakit kaya ganon?
Siguro, kani-kaniya kasing kani-kaniyang intelligences. So, sinusundan naman nila kung magaling sila sa isang bagay, kunyari logical, mathematical yung kanilang intelligence, no? O gusto niya maging lawyer. O sige. Kasi sa akin, hindi dahil babae o lalaki ka. Pero kung ano yung magagawa mo, to become the best. Pero ang women kasi ngayon kahit na saan, mahahanap mo siya. Lahat ng larangan, tama ba yan? Lahat ng larangan sa lipunan, nariyan siya, di ba? And maganda yun. But I don't think I'm answering your question. What was your question?
So, why, sabi nyo nga po kasi, ang mga kababaihan, parang kahit saan pwede mong ilagay. But what about, let's say, I know that in engineering, a lot would be many, unlike pag-teacher, engineering,
Oh,
dominated naman ng
dumadami
male.
na rin.
Ngayon, dumadami
Parang mga
na.
children ko, marami nag-engineering
Na
ngayon, mga
babae.
architecture pa.
Yes, yes.
Oo. Kaya ngayon, palagay ko, patas naman kasi ang oportunidad. Ayan, maganda yan. Pero mamaya, meron din akong mga sasabihin na meron tayong mga lamang, in a sense, sa mga kalalakihan.
Why did you tell us that now?
Hindi naman dahil gusto kong makipagtalo sa lalaki. Iba naman, iba yung strength nila. Iba yung strength natin. No? So, I think we should keep on to our own roles. God has given us our own roles, okay? The men have muscle strength that we don't have. Not that we can't build muscle, but naturally, they just have that. Okay? Now, women have something that the men don't have, so why should they compete with us or I compete with them? Because God gave us the power to create life and give birth, which the men don't have. So, stay on, ano yung role na binigay, ano ba yung disenyo ni God para sa atin? Kay babae ka, kay lalaki ka. Kasi only women can give birth, right? So we create life, we're more nurturing. There are even studies now about the sensitivity of touch that women have, which is different from men. Kasi mas malaki kaya makakrush nila yung bata pag ano, bakit ang babae iba? Dahil meron tayong sarilihang mga characteristics na nasa atin lang talaga. Tapos sinasabi ngayon ng mga geneticists, yung mga nag-aaral ng iba-ibang mga kultura, nakikita nila ang mga babae, they have many things that we do, like we're able to, in times of famine or pandemic, more women, even if they get infected, it's the men that die more. There are many things, like women also can see more colors that the men don't see. No? Pero meron ding mga things na meron naman lang mga lalaki na kanila. Okay? So, pinakamalaki sa akin doon, yung tayo we give birth. We give birth. So, there should be no qualms about that. Keep your roles. I like to say that. Ako po, wala po akong anak. Si Ate Melba, wala din anak. Pero nag-give birth naman kami sa institusyon. So, di ba? So, there's something about, kasi daw, meron daw tayo, sabi ng mga geneticists, 2 X chromosomes. Na ang malalaki, 1 X chromosome lang. I remember that with the book by Ashley Montague when I was in college. And the title was The Natural Superiority of Women. And that stuck in my mind, you know. My piano teacher when I was a little girl, I was 7 years old, she was the first woman pilot, and this was in the 1950s. Edith Abaladejo Dizon, I remember her name. She was my organ teacher, and she was the only woman who flew 13,000 feet without the oxygen. She flew flight. She was a woman in aviation in the 1950s. I was, wow, look at this lady. This is my teacher. She teaches music, but she's also a pilot, Ganda yun, Na sabi natin ang babae, hindi lang nakaipit sa isa, pwede din. Pero, kailangan din natin isipin na meron tayong dapat gawin din sa pamamahay. Hindi pwedeng tayo sa lalaki na naiwanan mo naman mga anak mo. Kaya marami nagkakagulo-gulo. Wala kasing mga nanay din sa bahay. No, pero ibang kwento na yun.
I think that might be related to what Miss Telma is doing, right? Dahil karamihan po sa kasama nyo ay mga nanay. So, what can you say about that naman po na sinabi ni Teacher Francie? In your experience, of course, without having to disclose names, but maybe some stories that you can share with us na ano nga ba yung challenge rin na kung pwede pa natin pong magdig-deep pa tayo doon. We are taking on leadership roles like you, Miss Telma, di ba? Leader po kayo sa mga sambahay. Pero, comment po kayo sa sinabi ni Teacher Francie, nagagawa nyo naman po yung mga trabaho sa bahay. Paano po nyo ito i-describe? Because that's not a very easy thing to also balance.
Correct.
Sa akin, nahirapan ako sa time. Time kasi mas marami akong time sa community kesa sa bahay. Sabi ng mga anak ko,
Lumalabas yun, ano?
sabi ng mga anak ko, umuwi ka pa.
Oo, tama.
Ayun, parang ganyan. Ma, saan ka galing? Gabi na nagmi-ministry ka pa, parang ganyan. Kaya minsan nagkukulang nga talaga sa time sa bahay, sa gawaing bahay. Pero hindi naman naging against yung asawa ko sa leadership na meron ako. Supportive pati yung mga anak ko kasi kasama rin ko rin sila sa ministry. Kaya okay. Nung una kasi ay sila muna ang nasa ministry. Tapos ako ang wala. So dati sinasabi ko sa kanila, gabi na, bakit puro ganyan. Tapos ngayon nang naging ako na yung leaders, baliktad. Binabalik ng mga anak ko, sabi ng mga anak ko, Mama, gabi na, uuwi ka pa ba? Ganyan. Nakakatuwa lang, pero hindi naman siya para sa akin hindi siya challenges kasi ginagawa ko naman ito para sa Panginoon and kasama rin syempre na na ma-manage ko naman na nagkakaroon kami ng time family as house church din, nagsasambahay kami, nag-devotion ganyan. Kaya ayun siguro time talaga yung pinaka-challenges nating mga leader.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of women watching could relate to that, lalo na po yung mga nanay, no? Nanay na talagang merong inaasikaso ng mga anak sa bahay, but hindi po kayo nag-iisa. That's really a common challenge.
Yes.
And yet, we hope that as you hear the story of Miss Tel, mangganda po nung sinabi nyo na kasama nyo sila doon sa ministry. Kasama ang anak, kasama ang asawa, at salamat sa napaka-supportive na asawa. Siguro may mga magpapakomment ng sana all. Doon sa comment box natin sa Facebook, no? Sana all supportive. But we hear your story that it's not easy, pero kaya. Kayang gawin.
Marami talagang may mga challenges din na sa iba naming kagrupo na nagiging hadlang yung asawa. Hindi ayaw nila na kasi syempre nanay ka, mas unahin mo yung gawaing bahay at saka yung mga anak mo kaysa nandiyan ka. May mga ganong mga challenges na. Tapos meron din mga challenges na mas uunahin nila syempre yung halimbawa alagaan yung mga anak kaysa magpunta nga naman or mag-lead sa church, parang ganyan.
In that situation, let's just explore that scenario more. Kasi sabi nga natin, a lot might be able to relate, a lot of our listeners or viewers. So sa mga ganun pong sitwasyon, base sa inyong karanasan sa mga kasamahan nyo, how can we better manage women in leadership, di po ba? So, there's an opportunity to serve, to lead. But there's this challenge. Paano po sa tingin ninyo natin masasabi sa ating mga viewers na this is what you can probably do? If you have any suggestion, practical tip maybe?
Siguro like kung sa akin, based on my experience siguro, una is mahirap talaga. Nagkaroon din ng time na hindi pa namin kasama yung asawa ko sa pagmi-ministry and minsan nagagalit talaga, 'di ba, na mas nauna yung ministry kaysa sa family. Family din naman is a part of our ministry, parang ganyan. And siguro isa doon yung talagang mas maganda na makakilala din yung buong family para parehas kayong parang support, masusuportahan ka. Kasi kung katulad nga ng iba na ayaw ng asawa na mag-lead ka or pumunta ka sa church, parang ganon, hadlang na siya, mahirap sa lahat ng leader na mayroong hadlang. Na kailangan unahin ko yung maghanap, halimbawa, like walang trabaho ang asawa ko, halimbawa, example, tapos kailangan namin ng pagkain. So, ang mangyayari, magtatrabaho na lang ako kaysa naman mag-lead, di ba? Parang gano'n. Or pumunta ng churches. Kasi kailangan kong tugunin yung pangailangan ng pamilya ko. Kasi walang trabaho ang asawa ko, parang gano'n. Kaya siguro maganda na, na talagang supportive yung family, makakilala, parang ganyan. Kung sa leadership, ang pinag-uusapan sa leadership sa church or sa anumang ministry, parang gano'n.
Right. I'm sure na may makaka-appreciate po nung inyong binahagi na yan. Merong mga tanong sa Facebook natin, no? Julian, I'd invite you to share your thought on this question. Sabi nung isang Facebook viewer natin, si Mr. Arthur Alvindia, he said, anong kakaibang perspective, pananaw, or value na dala ng mga women leaders? So, sa area ng development or education mission in comparison to male leaders. So, that was a specific question. No? You might have thoughts on that, but in your area muna siguro, like in the field of arts or dance. So, sabi mo, marami ay kababaihan, pero meron ding mga lalaki na into the ballet, into arts, into dance, into ballet. So, what do you think?
Mahirap na tanong. But, siguro from experience lang, I can't say, ayoko kasi nag-generalize, sa totoo lang. Ayoko nagbibigay ng generalizations, or babae ganito, lalaki ganyan. I personally really hesitate. Pero from my experience kasi, the way women handle things, it's very collaborative. May pagbavalue sa relational aspects ng mga bagay-bagay. Tapos, I guess in terms of work lang din, hindi siya yung tipong go, rush. Mas nagte-take time na i-consider lahat ng mga anggulo, lahat ng mga tao, unang-una yung mga tao, tapos lahat ng scenarios or aspects of, kunyari, a particular piece that we're doing. So, very ganun siya. Sorry, very physical tao. So, very ganun. Ma-experience ko with leadership styles ng women that I've worked with. Yung collaboration niya. I can't completely say na hindi ganun sa lalaki kasi medyo same din yung experience ko with men eh. So, I can't tell. Pero yeah.
Okay, but that was a very good insight that you shared, no? Yung psyche, we could probably coin it in that manner. The way that women are able to handle, let's say, issues or concerns, collaborative, diba? Makes sure that you hear from all the variables, people involved. We're not saying that men are not like that, but I would ask probably Teacher Francie and also Miss Telma if it's the same thing that you observed in terms of mission, siguro in churches, di ba? And also in education. Is that the same thing with, is that the same value or perspective that women are really able to offer? Tama si Julian dyan, na mas nakikita ng babae yung parang kabuuan.
Correct.
Ang mga lalaki, ano yung end? Okay. Pero yung mga babae, yung mga detalye, tinitinan niya yung mga, siyempre, sa mga damdamin, etc. ganito. Pero yung mga men kasi, gano'n naman kasi lang talaga, more straightforward. Ano ba nangyari? At kasi ang mga babae, napakarami talaga din detalye. Na hindi naiintindihan ng mga lalaki yon, no? Kasi, tayo, kunyari, merong nagkasakit ka, di ikikwento mo sa lalaki, no? Nagkasakit ka, dito, gano'n. Tapos, ang haba na ng kwento mo, tatanong na lang nung husband mo, o wala ka pang husband, no? Ano ba, buhay pa ba? Ang buhay pa, tapos na. Ang dami mo pang sinabi eh. Kasi hindi nila okay lang because that's just how they are. So, we have to just, we just have to, na iba, may kaibahan lang talaga. Pero meron akong gustong tanungin yung kasi, meron ibang mga mother, ang dami na nilang pera, pero gusto pa rin nilang mas marami, naiiwanan ang bata sa bahay. Naiintindihan ko yung sinasabi niya na it's really, they really have to feed their children. The mother has to go. But there are sometimes, both parents are already working, and the mother pwede naman ang hindi na siya mag-work eh. Kasi kung pwede lang, mas kasama niya yung mga anak niya. Dahil gusto nila ng mga bata, pag umuwi sila, nandun si nanay. Iba yun, nandun ang nanay ko. Okay? Lumalaki sila na nandun. I'm not saying na huwag magtrabaho ng women, no? Pero alin ang mas mahalaga? Anuhin mo yan. Kasi kung pwede ko lang sabihin, merong isang nanay nga, pag uwi niya, panay siya busy ng busy. Pag may tinanong ang bata, wait, nanay, meron akong meeting. Lahat, wait ng bata. Wait sa bata. Tapos minsan, umuwi siya, gabi na, sabi niya sa anak niya, you'll sleep with mama today, ha? Alam mo, sabi ng bata, no, I'm sleeping with yaya. Umiyak siya. Bakit? Mas maraming panahon ang ginugol ni yaya kaysa kay nanay. Okay, totoo yan, ha? So, iisipin din, I think, we can do many things, but we also have to make sure our family becomes our number one priority for women. I believe that. My mom was a working mother, but she also took much care of her family.
Right. That's something that is also a challenge. Kung kanina,
Challenge din yun.
challenge sa mga kalalakihan, but challenge also to women in leadership
Yes.
roles. And
Yes.
I'm supposing that it's a challenge for everyone here
Challenge,
in this panel, and also every woman who's also listening. Challenge po ito sa atin. But I like what Teacher Francie said, and let me just echo that kanina. We have our unique strengths, no?
Yes.
We have strengths as women that are not available or can be exercised by men. And by embracing that, we tap into our, our core, our strength, and we are able to do our function. Like if you are a mother, you have that strength to be a mother to your children, correct? What can you say? Babalikan ko si Julian kasi interested ako dun sa area or dun sa field kung nasan din siya, no?
Yes.
Na, what about if you have also colleagues who are men, so how would you describe the dynamics in that field where you are, in the area of ballet? So how are men receptive also in terms of having more women in the field of dance or arts? And kayo rin naman, ano yung nakikita nyo na strength maybe ng mga kalalakihan or kapwa nyo rin kababaihan dun sa field na yan?
The men I've worked with, they're all fantastic. No, kasi iba rin eh. Most of the men that I've worked with, same din yung sort of collaborative energy, the willingness, the openness to share our own artistry, basically. So, hindi ko alam kung dahil ba sobrang fortunate ko lang or what, or wala eh, parang kaya, sorry, I have to disagree a little bit with what teacher
That's
said.
fine,
Kasi nga,
darling.
based on my experience, yung mga qualities of being nurturing and caring, I have found that in the men I've worked with as well. So,
Yes, there are.
yeah, so, nandun yung strength din, aside from physically yung strength ng men that I've worked with in the dance world. They're super, super strong technically. Yeah, and artistically as well. And they can do some things, lalo sa side ng ballet, not so much in contemporary dance and improvisation, but sa ballet, there are some things that they can do that women can't do that much. And there are also some things that women do that men can't do as well. But that's more in the ballet side. So there's sort of that balancing act going on then. But in terms of trabaho, ganyan, walang much difference, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, wow. That's a good, we could say also eye-opener maybe, diba? That we're able to recognize both gender roles to be working together, no? Especially in the field of dance, like you said. And I'm sure Teacher Francie won't take offense dun sa estudyante.
That's fine. The artists, I think, are more caring, really.
Yes.
They have
Meron kasi talaga.
that side of them that is beautiful.
Correct.
I think that's wonderful.
Right.
And they're men, but that's fine. Mayroong mga talagang ganun.
Yes. Oo. Now, I'd like to ask the three of our speakers or our guests, in your experience, kanina, partly, nasagot din to ni Miss Telma, no? Supportive yung kanyang asawa. So, for the others also, and as a follow-up question to Miss Telma, what would you say to people who might not be that willing or supportive to recognize women in leadership? So, of course, that would not be for your husband anymore. Pero sa iba niyong karanasan, and that would be a question that I'd like or invite Julian and Teacher Francie to respond to.
Sa akin, hindi naman hindi issue. Hindi issue kung
So what would you say to those who might not be, that supportive to your role as leader, maybe, or maybe not for you, but for others also?
siguro hayaan na maging maging lead. Mag-lead yung asawa or yung babae.
Okay.
Kasi wala naman yun sa either girl or a boy ka.
Tama.
Yung pag-lead is yung kakayanan or gift natin para mas empower yung gift na ipinagkaloob sa atin ng Panginoon. Ganun. Kaya kung sino yung mga hindi supportive sa mga
Sige po, huwag kayong matakot.
hinahamon ko kayong supportahan ko. Supportahan. Parang nakaka-proud. Halimbawa, ako yung lalaki, nakaka-proud na yung asawa
Misis
ko.
mo.
Yeah.
Maganda, magaling yun.
Hindi dahil leader siya, naanuhan ka na niya, na lampasan, no? Parang, be proud.
Yeah.
Be proud kung ang anak mo is part of a leadership. Parang ganyan. Even kahit bata siya, part na siya ng leadership, katulad niya, Timoteo, di ba? Ganun. Dapat maging proud tayo sa lahat ng mga ginagawa ng pamilya natin. Parang ganun. Supportahan natin sila sa kung saan nag-i-explore yung gifts na pinagkaloob sa kanila ng Panginoon.
Wow, that's wonderful. How about you, Julian?
+1 na lang dun sa sinabi. Ang ganda Ito nung sinabi mo, tama ka nga na nasa gifts talaga yan Kung ano yung pinagkaloob sa'yo ng Diyos. Nurture it. Use it. Doesn't matter kung babae o lalaki ka. So siguro para dun sa mga hindi na lang mga resistant, try nyo lang. Hindi naman ata kayo masasaktan kung i-try nyo lang na hayaan ang mga may gift na to, na kababaihan na mag-rise up. I don't think you'll get hurt.
Wow. Very well said, Julian. How about you, Teacher Francie?
Basta alam mo kung anong kakayanan mo. Para sa akin, ang husband ko siya yung pastor, ako yung teacher. Walang I think the important thing is you are proud and you marvel at what God has given you, and it has to be a complementary thing. That's why kaya tayo naging health meet nila, no? May complementary, complement each other for the good of all, no? So, yun, parang hindi kailangan nag-aanuhan. Ano bang what for, no? Complement each other, collaborate, support each other, use the gifts God has given you. I'm glad I'm a woman. Diba? Yeah.
That's a message not just for those who would need to support women, but also to women, diba?
Yes.
To be proud of not just their position, but their role, their strength, their giftings.
Yeah.
So at this point, gusto ko po kayo na imbitahin ulit na in your particular fields, lalo na po sa mga teachers, no? Sa mga nanay at sa mga kapwa mo artists, no? How would you want them to elevate, their own unique strengths, their influence, their giftings? Because I believe personally, like what Teacher Francis said, and a lot of us are also talking about, we are leaders in our own field, in our own right, especially women. So what can you tell them? How can we elevate these strengths, their giftings, our giftings that we have as women, to really be women in leadership, not just in position, but in the places where we are?
Well, our God is a God of excellence. So I would say that do with excellence whatever God has given you. And be proud that you are what God made you. And I'm proud that God made me a woman.
Miss Thelma?
Ako sa mga kananayan or kababaihan na nagli-lead ngayon, hindi lang, natural na sa ating mga nanay na iyakin, mababa yung puso, parang ganon. Pero hindi lang tayo babae, hindi lang tayo nanay, hindi lang tayo yung mga gumagawa ng gawaing bahay, nag-aalaga ng anak natin. Mahalaga tayo, meron tayong kwenta, no? Pare-parehas tayong nilikha ng Panginoon. Hindi tumitingin yung Panginoon sa kahinaan natin or sa gender natin, no? Nilikha tayo ng Panginoon uniquely. And gamitin natin yung gifts na pinagkaloob sa atin sa kung anumang paraan. Kaya natin lahat ay kaya natin sa kung anumang pamamaraan. And siguro like sa akin dati ang akala ko ay palatawa lang ako, palakaibigan. Pero nung nakakilala ko sa Panginoon, isa pala yun sa parang gift na meron ako is encouragement, no? At ngayon, nagagamit ko siya and mas na-train ko pa yung iba ko pang gifts. Like, yun, nakakapagturo na ako, ganun. Parang explore natin kung ano yung pinagkaloob ng Panginoon na gifts na meron tayo. At yun, para sa kaluwalhatian ng Panginoon. Yun lamang po.
Thank you, Miss Thelma. Julian?
Ako naman, to my fellow dancers, sa Pista ng Bayan, don't be ashamed of your bodies, please. Because God made you the way you are for a reason. Sorry. You are beautiful in your own way. Share your story. Sorry.
That's alright.
Yeah. Don't be ashamed. Move. Take up space. Be who you are. Because that's who God made you.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you so much, Julian. Thank you, Miss Thelma. Thank you, Teacher Francie. I'm sure marami pa na detalye na kulang ang oras natin, no, para maibahagi sa lahat. But what I witnessed here is all of us who are watching or listening tonight are women in leadership, and yet there is strength in being vulnerable. We've seen the vulnerabilities of each one of us here as nanay, as a teenager who may have, influences of their environment or even on the personal side. And of course, it's not easy to be an educator and establish your own platform so that you can hone children for the community, for God, for country. But we can do that as women. One of the takeaways na nakuha ko po ngayon, you can share also in the comment section kung ano yung mga nakuha ninyo na insights that others might want to review, when they listen again to this episode of Isip Isak. But one of the things that I've gathered from what were shared by our speakers, we were given our unique gifts No, as women, we were given our unique strength, and we have the strength to do the role that was entrusted to us. And this is not about competition with other gender roles, but this is all about being who you are and doing the best in the role that you have. And I believe that if we do that, when we do that, we will be able to empower not just our fellow women, but also others to do their specific roles naman din, 'di ba? So no encroaching of roles or no competition of roles, but more of helping each other, collaborating, complementing each other. So napakaganda ng mga kwento na narinig natin, no? Mga insights din na narinig natin. Sana ay may mga comforting, encouraging, and empowering insights and messages kayo na nakuha ngayon sa ating conversation. So once again, we'd like to invite you to share with us your thoughts sa comment section. Thank you to all those who also ask questions. If there are questions na maaring hindi namin nasagot for now, we will take note of other questions and hopefully meron pa po tayong mga susunod na episode na aabangan. So sa susunod po ay Women's Month pa rin, no? Abangan po natin. I think we will be together on March 30 for another episode of Isip, Isak, and magkakaroon pa rin po tayo ng magandang kwentuhan bilang in celebration of Women's Month. So, thank you once again to Julian, Miss Thelma, and Teacher Francie. Maraming salamat sa pagsama sa amin ngayong oras na ito sa Isip Isak. We hope and pray that we will continue to celebrate who we are, women in leadership, women of influence, and mothers, women, teenagers, and educators. Maraming salamat at see you po ulit sa susunod natin na kwentuhan dito sa Isip Isak Conversations on Faith and Society.